Welcome to the Red Half of Sheffield, the video version. At one point I'll get this right. I am Chad, as you guys know, from the Red Half of Sheffield, and this is a preview pod for our upcoming match on Good Friday against Wigan, and I am joined the second time this season. I think besides the Watford guys, Charlie, I think you're the only other person to come on twice this season, welcoming back the video version of Charlie because I did the match preview and it was just an audio recording last time. Charlie Keegan from the Central Wigan podcast. Charlie, how are you this I guess evening in England? It is about 8:30
Yep.
England time, and we're recording Sunday. It's about 3:30 East Coast time. But Charlie, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be on the video version, and obviously with the video, you can see I'm wearing my top, which has become a tradition this year. So when the podcast, I wear my Wigan shirt if we win. So I've managed to wear it a total of 6 times all season, something like that.
Yeah,
so a rare occasion. So I thought I'd bring back the 1995 kit that we used to sport. So
it is a nice, yeah, it is a nice,
isn't it?
yeah, it
We
is a
kind
nice
of
kit.
modeled. I think we modeled the 2020 or 2019 kit on it when we had the green stripes and the solid stripe. But this was the one that Roberto Martinez used to wear way back in the day. So we brought it back in the sporting line. So I got one.
It probably brings you back to a better time in Wigan history. If the listeners and watchers of this video are just now, you've been living under a rock for the last couple of weeks. Wigan have been hit with, as Charlie even alluded to me, I didn't know the points deduction had came through. They got nailed with a -3 points deduction, and I'm going to hand it over to Charlie. What in the world is going on at Wigan Athletic right now? Because we talked just for a few minutes leading into this, and it was like Wigan were doing so good, and I think in the reverse fixture, you had Wigan tipped to stay up and not get relegated this season, and it's almost kind of bang on now with the points deduction and everything that's going on. So, I mean, one of their own, Charlie. You have the floor. What is going on at Wigan Athletic?
I think it's been a season-long thing, and the more we know about it, the more we realize it actually goes over 2 seasons, and it goes pretty much from when they took over as the owners. But essentially, as you know, we won League One last year. We fair enough walked the league, apart from the last few game weeks where we kind of stumbled over the line. But we had this squad that were brilliant, and to get us promoted to the Championship after going down to just 3 players registered, we had to build a big squad. We had to pretty much rebuild the club again, which is what Liam Richardson had a huge hand in, and he really built it. So then we win that. We go into the summer break, that we have a big party in Wigan, everybody's celebrating. And then June comes around, which is the start of pretty much the financial year for football clubs. So everything resets for June, and then they run again. And our wages got paid late in June and July, which it's the summer break. The owners are transitioning into a new league. We kind of started to make excuses as Wigan fans, like, oh, we can understand if, the money's coming from a Bahrain bank account going into an English one and there's a delay, we can understand. But that wasn't really the case. And then we get around to October. Liam Richardson allegedly signs a new 3-year contract and then goes 3 weeks later. And then recently found out that the wages got paid late again in October, around the time that he got sacked. So I've got my own theories on it. I don't think he was sacked. I think that, my personal theory is that he's gone and said, okay, you're making a mess of this football club and I'm not happy with it. And then, they've come to an agreement, because why would he run a great manager? Brilliant. I was really upset when he left, as you know, because we spoke about Colo Torre coming in. I think there's a couple of things with that. But anyway, then the season's carried on. We paid the wages late again in January, I think it was. Oh no, sorry, we got a suspended points deduction in January from the EFL because they said, we understand that you've paid wages late however many times. If you do it again, a 3 points is going to come in. In March, we paid the wages late again by 2 weeks. So we got the points deduction coming, and then apparently to pay the wages, the owners have had to sell a property in London, which they work in construction and architecture, so it's no real shock that the assets are property in that way. But they
Mhm.
sold a big property for, I think it was 33 million or something that they sold it for. So that has secured funding for the rest of this season and apparently until the next season. We ended up having a meeting with the owners at the DW last week, where I was fortunate enough to be there, and we asked questions around the finances and said, "How have you got it to this stage where you've taken over, you've paid wages so many times? We just sacked the chairman, not the chairman. We sacked the chief executive, so he's now gone. Mal Brannigan has left the club, so we have no CEO. We're 5 points off safety. We're like, how have we got to this point from winning the league last year?" And the owner went, "You've just got to look at Rotherham. They pay less wages than us, but they're higher. Obviously, the person who's funding it, Mr. Al Jazmi, is not happy with that. He obviously wants us to compete." So we really looked into it, and apparently the budget was 3 million for the wages. We ended up going up to 7 million. It looks like there was a lot of clauses, promotion clauses, bonuses put into contracts that maybe we signed players with the intention of having them for 2 years that were running and then trying to get promoted then and then leaving. We asked the owners, did we get promoted too soon? They said probably, because then all these activation clauses kicked in and wages went up, and contractually binding, you can't change it. So it looks like our expenses were much higher than we really wanted them to be. But then you've just got to hold your hands up as owners and say, we completely mismanaged it. We didn't forecast ahead that we could have been promoted. And I think they said around January in our promotion year, they started to realize, okay, promotion's nearly there. Do we go for it? Do we not? And there must have been a decision saying we may as well go for it. And they did, and it stung us. And now we are in the bottom three, well, dead bottom of the table. So, it's a huge mountain to climb. And then you just got to factor in the whole Colo Torre thing, where we paid a lot of compensation for him to get it from Leicester, and he lasted 7 games. We sacked him. He's still probably getting paid, so
Yeah.
financial mess is what the club is in.
Yeah, that's I mean, what are your, I guess I don't even know how to ask this question. What's your internal mind? What are you thinking? Like, what kind of idiots are running this club and just driving it straight into the ground? And it's like, as you alluded to, it's like Wigan came up with so much promise, and me being a Sunderland fan, I paid attention to League One, and it's like Wigan came out of nowhere. I think last year to start League One, they were tipped like mid-table, maybe just outside of the playoffs, and to just go up completely, automatically promoted to the championship. It's like, all right, that's a little bit of a shock there, but
Mm-hmm.
it this is what frustrates me, and I seem like I get on my soapbox every once in a while, or no, probably more than once in a while. Uh, it's I don't understand what the EFL does. As I alluded to you before we started recording, United are going through, and I guess, a potential takeover. Dozy and Boozy is rumored to take over the club, but he's been rumored to take over the club since January. We went through the transfer embargo, blah, 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 unpaid wages, this, that, and the other. And here we still are. I guess he's still interested. It's inching closer, but it feels like it's still so far away. And it's like, this is what I'm so scared about is, okay, a few more games, good results, and we're probably going to get promoted to the Prem. Then do we potentially run into this situation where we have a takeover and the funds are there, but then they're not really there, and we just end up just getting drove into the ground, and then we just tumble down the leagues and just kind of like are floundering, and nobody wants us. And I don't get what the EFL's ownership test they have to do. I don't, because it seems like they just in some cases they just give clubs to owners that they're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, he's gonna be good. And then the other ones, it's like, you're pulling, it's almost pulling teeth to try and get the takeover through. To me, it just doesn't. They need, I guess, a whole new business model, a better business model to how these clubs get taken over. Am I wrong?
No, and I think the procedure is actually better than it used to be, because I was speaking to somebody about it and they said owners could effectively come into the EFL, take over a club, and then apply through the owners directors test. But you've already signed everything, so they're not just going to say, "Oh no, sorry, like you can't do it," because you're already
Yeah.
in. So you kind of used to be able to force the hand, I believe, but it's kind of tightened up a bit now. And when they start taking time, like, with the United one, and they're trying to inch over the line, to me, that says that they've found something, the EFL, or you would hope that they've found something if it's
Mhm.
taken that long. That means, maybe we shouldn't do this. But then if you've got doubt, don't do it, because we've seen with Wigan when the IEC came in and, the Hong Kong consortium, and it was all messy. Then we got transferred one night into a new next leader fund, which nobody knew about. We had shadow directors that you didn't even know existed. And it all became a bit messy, but the EFL kind of just sat there and they didn't seem to really care that much. And then obviously we put in administration, we got the 12-point deduction, we got relegated,
Mhm.
everything, we lost everything from the club. And then you get these new owners coming in from Phoenix. And I think the EFL had got a application or something from Spanish owners before we got taken over, and that got put to bed early. But then the new owners that are coming in, yes, they did great. They have put a lot of investment in. They've put upwards of 20, 30 million into the club just to get it to the point where it is now. Yes, they've
Mhm.
mismanaged it around, and it's, you know, when I met the chairman, he is a lovely guy, but
Mhm.
his enthusiasm knows absolutely no bounds. And sometimes you just want to hold him and just be like, please just just sit and listen. Like, this is a bit of a
Yeah.
serious topic. Great. He must be a great businessman, but when he's getting into football and you can see his excitement, and you're just thinking, it's great to be excited, but you've got staff that need to pay mortgages and bills, and we kind of need to understand this a little bit.
Yeah. Right.
That's on the EFL to kind of understand that they must meet the owners before it. So if you meet somebody that you're a bit like, maybe he needs a bit more management, give them a little bit more time. I really don't
Yeah.
understand the EFL test, but I'm sure they've got the reasonings for the way it is, and it just really is not working at the moment.
Yeah. It, it like I said, it just makes me scratch my head at just how some of these owners come in. So I guess my question for you, where does this put Wigan? Obviously, as we talked, they're probably going to get relegated from the championship this year. Is this a thing where, you know, you were in didn't you get relegated as far as League Two a couple of
No.
years ago? Or was only League One you went down to?
Yeah.
That was the first time you guys went into it basically administration. Where does Wigan go from here? Obviously, like I said, the relegation is probably a certain fact now. Is this a thing where League One is the floor and they hit the bottom, and how do they rebound from there, or could you see them tumbling further down the league?
I don't think going down to League Two is a real issue. We know it can be a possibility, because obviously when you're in a league, you're promoted, stay there, or get relegated. So it's always a possibility. And to go into it thinking we're not going to get relegated is a little bit naive. I think that the situation this time is completely different to the last time when we were in League One and everything happened. We'd just been plunged into administration the championship year, effectively relegated down to there because of the deduction, and that was
Mhm.
a whole scandal. Which, if a lot of the listeners or viewers haven't read up on, like, just go and read it. It's a mess what happened. But then essentially we had nothing, and how we managed to survive in the league that year in League One, I don't know.
Mhm.
Going down next year, times are different. We have Sean Maloney this time. He's a brilliant manager, got a really good vision, game plan. We have strong academy players, which he said that about 10 are going to come through. That they're ready for the step up. Maybe not all of them, but about 10 of them he was saying are ready. We still have players on the contract this year that we will take into season next with us. Realistically, with the 3 points we got against QPR on Saturday, we should be 2 points off safety with 7 games to go, which you're still in it at that point, but the
Yeah.
deductions took us down to 5. 7 games to go. It's tough. I know we play, I think it's 5 of the bottom 12, 3 of the bottom 6, and then obviously we've got Sheffield United, and I think Millwall as well. So we would have to do a big shock against you guys at Bramall Lane. Then we would have to do a huge shock again against Millwall, and then just win the games that we could win. You're looking at 5-6 wins, and we've only won 8 this season or something total.
Yeah.
So it's a massive ask, but we've been here before. We've done it. We've pulled off impossible tasks, and whilst it's impossible on paper, once the squad's got belief in it, they can do anything. So I'm kind of, careful optimist. I've been saying for a while I think we might do it, and something's happening, but realistic, it's hard.
It could be a great escape. You never know. I mean, you could be written off, and everybody. I'm sure, when my podcast list fills up this week of not the top 20 and second tier podcast, I'll talk. They'll talk all about it, and they'll probably write you guys up. But until the last match day has been played, or you are mathematically eliminated, I don't think anybody's out of it until like I said, until there's no possible way you could achieve survival. And, it seems that almost like once a year or one team every year seems to be in a dire position and manage to pull themselves out of it. Almost Derby almost pulled themselves out of it last year. And, obviously that didn't work out for them, but it is what it is. So I guess I'll get, we'll get into what the listeners and the viewers are interested. What are your thoughts on this Good Friday's matchup between the Blades and the Athletics?
I'm excited, I'm really excited. And I don't know if that just comes from coming off the back of the 3 points, which, to be honest, we weren't 100% convincing, but it's the little running. I always get excited by the running at the end because anything can happen. Sheffield United, dare I say, are wobbling a little bit. Do I think that Middlesbrough and Luton are breathing down the necks and threatening a playoff fight? I don't know. Sheffield, you need to get a win. You need to 1 or 2 wins. Just try and put yourself out of distance. But that's when, like you saw with us last year, we're trying to go and win the league, and it took like 6 game weeks for us just to get the final point you needed. Because when you're trying to stumble, you overthink it. And Burnley aren't really overthinking it. I don't think they're, they're very drilled. And so, I mean, Sheffield United are very drilled, but it's what, in your last 8 games, you've lost 4 games or something like that. Yeah. So a little bit
bad run of form. But we've been in a bad run of form. But and I'll let you get back to it. But we did capitalize on Middlesbrough dropping points to, of all teams, Huddersfield. And I was like, oh man, they lost to Huddersfield. It's like, okay, we beat Norwich. We extended the lead to 6 with a game in hand against West Brom, and then we're going to obviously have another game in hand with the FA Cup semifinal that we'll have to play. The Huddersfield game will get rescheduled. So we could possibly be as many as 9 points with the game in hand if we win the game in hand. So, I mean, it's not as dire as it was 2-3 weeks ago when we thought, oh, God, Middlesbrough are going to lap us. And they're going to easily cruise in the automatic promotions. But, yeah, back to your what do you think is going to happen Friday afternoon?
Well, I'm curious, though, because you play Burnley. Is it on the Monday after you play Burnley? But I'm wondering, is there a burnout with Sheffield United? Do you look tired? Because the FA Cup run that you're obviously on is great. And I don't know if we spoke about it last time, but I love when teams go on an FA Cup run that you've got to go and play Man City. We beat Man City in the final, then we beat them the next year. It can be done. They're not an invincible team. So if Sheffield United can go all the way and even get to the final or just win the FA Cup, that'd be a great little story. But do you think that's had a big impact on your season, or do you think it is only a good thing that obviously you're going for promotion and you're about to potentially win an FA Cup?
When the FA Cup started, I was a big proponent of let's get out of the cup. Let's. I believe the first game we played was Millwall away in the cup, and I was like, just lose, just take a loss and get out. And we played them like we were way better, miles better than Millwall on the day. So we came the convincing win, and then it kind of gathered steam, and then we went into the circus of the Wrexham game, which I'm sure you heard all about, which was an absolute clown show. And then we got drawn against Tottenham. We're like, well, okay, this is where the road ends. It's been a nice run. Let's just go out and it's almost like let's take a victory lap of a good run in the FA Cup, and then we beat them 1-0, and it's like, oh my God. Then we get drawn against Blackburn. We lose to Blackburn in the league when we would much rather win that league game than the cup tie. We come back down twice against Blackburn. get into the semifinals. The mood around Sheffield was, oh my God, we're going to win the cup. Then they do the draw and it's Man City. And it's like, oh yeah, this is probably where the trip ends. But since we came back from the international break, and I don't think the FA Cup run has had much to do with it, but
Mhm.
it's just we haven't looked like the first half of the season convincing wins. We were beating teams just convincingly. Then we came back from the international break, and we were still winning, but we weren't convincing wins. And then we started to trip up, and we had a couple of losses, and then it was at one point it was 5 out of 6 league games, and we only beat Watford on an own goal that we didn't. Yeah, so
Wow.
we beat Watford on an own goal, and it's like, yeah, it was 3 points. Watford weren't really at it that day. They were unlucky to lose that one. Then we had lost, like I said, we had lost 5 out of 6 games, and you're like, oh man, you could see Middlesbrough is just reeling you in. It's just like they got you on a fishing reel, and they're just
Yeah.
pulling you in, and it's like once I think it was as many as 13-point lead we had over the chasing pack, and now it was down to as little as 3. I think is as close as it got. But we always had that game in hand, and when we won that game in hand and we kind of restored that gap, they trimmed it down because they played in the league and we didn't play and we were playing in the FA Cup. So that made it smaller going into the international break than it really should have been. And then we came out of it, and United historically are terrible out of the international break. We always lose the first game. And then to go and beat Norwich yesterday and to have Huddersfield beat Middlesbrough to restore that 6-point gap, it's like, okay, we can breathe. We can breathe again. It's not the end of the world. As you alluded to, we play Burnley on the Easter Monday after. It's not the end of the world if Burnley go and beat us.
Mhm.
It's just it's a game of don't get turned over and lose 4 or 5-0 to blow your confidence all to hell. But I think if we're able to go and beat Wigan on Friday, and that's an if. I mean, the championship is the most unpredictable league in the whole entire world. If we
Yeah.
were able to go and get a result and get 3 points against Wigan, it makes that Monday fixture against Burnley a lot easier. And especially, I don't know off the top of my head who Middlesbrough play, but I know we play before Middlesbrough because they play the late kickoff on Easter or on Good Friday. So we could have it as much as 9 points going into that game, and Middlesbrough could be like, oh man, oh no, Middlesbrough play Burnley
Oh,
on Easter Friday. So if they drop points, this is where we need Burnley to capitalize. If they drop points against Burnley and we beat Wigan, we restore that to 9 points. And then, obviously, as I said, if we go into Easter Monday and come away with nothing against Burnley, Middlesbrough do a job, get and peg us back to 6 points. It's not the end of the world. So I think our players want to get to the end of the season, and they started to get complacent, as I said, through after the international break, and then it's kind of been with this cup run, it's almost re-energized them.
mhm.
And I would have liked to see. It sucked that we ran into the international break because we we came off of that high of beating Blackburn, and then we go on the international break. Granted, we were able to carry it over and beat Norwich yesterday, but I would like to see if we would have had 3 games in a row, without a break, what it would have did for us. And we might have beat teams more convincingly, but when you put that halt in play, which sucks in the middle, especially in the middle of the run in, it's like, oh, you're trying to kill a team's momentum.
It makes it interesting, doesn't it? I always love the end of the chat, especially the championship. I don't really watch Premier League. I don't really bother
Yeah.
with all that, but the championship, especially towards the end, it really starts to liven up, and that's why I love. And we found ourselves years ago. I think it was 2019, and we were struggling a little bit. We really needed a win from somewhere, and we had to go to Ellen Road where Leeds were flying,
Mm-hmm.
and Ellen Road was packed that day. It was like bright, hot sunshine. It was one of them days. We got a player sent off. Cedric Kipre handballed it on the line. It wasn't really a handball, but the ref sent him off anyway. And then we ended up turning him over and beating him in that. And the bit I loved about that the most is that Leeds were filming their documentary, that is it Take Me Home or something, for Amazon
Yes.
Prime?
Yeah.
And we featured in that game. And our manager, Paul Cook, at the time, he was riling up everybody and he was yelling. And we managed to go there, and it's Gavin Massey masterclass. So we have a history of going to teams and rocking them, especially when I know Leeds were just trying to get to the end of the season as well and just trying to put it to bed. So it makes it really, really interesting, and that's what I like. But realistically, like you're saying, you're coming off international breaks and struggling. We haven't scored 2 goals in a game since Blackpool at the DW before the World Cup in the final game. And that was the game after we sacked Richardson, the game before Torre. So since then, we've had Torre, he's gone. We brought in Maloney. He's had 11 games and we still can't score 2 in a game. And we just played QPR and we had a penalty in the 6th minute. And if you've not seen it, go and have a look. It's Max Power right in the top corner, and there's not a keeper in the league that's saving that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought scoring so early on, 5-6 minutes in, I thought, oh, we've got this. Like, we can just go and score another one. And there was barely anything that we really have. And I was speaking to Maloney last week, and I said, what is our big problem? And he said, the final third. He said, you watching the midfield, we can say we're playing a team like Sheffield United, we'll probably do 3 at the back, wing backs, and then we'll pack out the midfield with 3 players in there. And there's a player that we've got, Chris Teehee, who we didn't have the last time we played you, and he is brilliant. If we can't sign him because of whatever financial things, some championship side's got to come in, because I think he's playing in the Czech league, Sparta, Livorno, somewhere like that.
Yeah.
A completely unknown player. I think Torre actually brought him across, ironically, but he's going to go somewhere. So, we're shaping up a little bit different this time. We're going to do more tactical things, but realistically, scoring is going to be our biggest issue against you. We know you've got a great defense. I think you've got second best defense in the league or something. So you're trying to get a team who can barely score, trying to go up against Arnold Ahmedhodzic or whoever your other 2 defenders are. Is it John Egan and somebody else?
Yeah, Jack Robinson. But for the bettors on this watching this video, put all the money on Wigan. Since Charlie said they can't score, they're going to put 3 past United, and it's going to be like, oh yeah. Then I'll have a back and forth with Charlie and be like, yeah, you said you couldn't score, and you're going to slot 3 past us. But I guess we might as well get down to it. What is your score prediction? Good Friday, full time whistle. Wigan 5, United 1.
I would love it. Do our goal difference the world of good, because we're 5 points off, but realistically 6 because our goal difference after Colo Torre, actually. Because after we played you, I think we played Middlesbrough, is it Middlesbrough, Sunderland, and Hull, and we lost 4-1 3 times in a row.
Yeah,
Our goal difference is finished. I don't know what we're going to do with that. In the game, we're going to have chances. We always seem to have chances now under Sean Maloney. He's got us playing much better, and like I say, Chris Teehee, we're likely going to line up with Max Power and Tom Naylor in the midfield. Tom Naylor came on at the end, and I think that's just to get him ready for a bit of a battle, because QPR really gave it to us at the end. And so I think we will go 3 in the middle. Maybe, well, I don't know actually, because Daniel Sinani, who we've got in on loan from Norwich, pulled up with a hamstring in the first half. And then Callum Lang went off with it looked like another dead leg, which he suffered with a lot this year. Will Keane wasn't even selected, our top scorer, kept on the bench. He's not scored in, I don't know how long. I don't even know if he's scored since the World Cup. He's really out of form. So we're really struggling. Ashley Fletcher's our striker. Charlie White is fit but not being selected, so I don't know what's going on. So realistically, we just, unless it's a set piece, like we scored a penalty, or trying to get in swingers with corners, which is a lot of the times we're scoring that through James McLean, we're not really gonna be much threat. I reckon. Look, I would love the miracle. I would love to stay up, because then there's no team, no team's had a worse season and survived than we possibly could. But I think it's going to be too much. I can just see Sheffield United turning up to Bramall Lane 3-1, securing promotion in the next few weeks, and that's it. And then we'll obviously have 6 games left to figure out our own things. But I would say 3-1 Sheffield United realistically.
I mean, I think I'm going to agree with you on that scoreline, 3-1. But I mean, it could go anyway. If you get any bit of momentum and you get something out of nothing, who's to say Wigan don't win the thing 1-0? Shut up shop and defend, and we don't take our chances and miss a couple, and it could end up it could end up going Wigan's way, but I mean,
Mhm.
all be watched and you found out Friday afternoon. But so I've added this little segment into the end of the pod that since you joined us, Charlie, what is your well? Hold on, I'll peg it back. What do you realistically? I know we talked about Wigan's relegation is almost certain.
Mhm.
Okay, the end of the season comes, full time whistle. Wigan are relegated. Where does the club go from here? Do you think you push for an immediate promotion back to the championship next year, or is it the club resets and it might be a year or two in League One to establish themselves again and then go again? Because and then try and get back into the championship, 3 years time.
I think we've got to be quite realistic. This summer, basically, we just need to, as fans, we're trying to get a bit more of a fan council. We want a big fan representation, especially on the board. Maybe like one person, who's tied in with the board or something. But the
Mm.
fans really need to be heard. The owners are not getting off scot free with the stuff they've done. I've tried to turn a bit more of a positive spin on it and just been like, all right, they've apologized and moved on. But I'm still as wary as anybody that we could miss this, because I know the players get paid this Friday or this Thursday because it's the bank holiday. If that payment doesn't go in on Thursday, there's no coming back, for these owners. And realistically, there's nobody else to buy us. There's nobody queuing up. We haven't got 15 owners wanting to buy us. And if the owners walk, which they've said that they won't, the club's in a dire state, and there's nobody really wanting to invest in it. So the owners really need to be sat down this summer and said, okay, if we're going into League One, you can't spend. There needs to be an oversight for the finances. There needs to be more people looking over it and kind of agreeing contracts with players. We need to utilize our academy, which is brilliant. We've got a great academy. I think our under 21s are second in their league, like the professional, actually second to Sheffield United,
Yeah,
who's
I was gonna
walking
say,
it.
yeah.
So we need to utilize them. Charlie Hughes came from them. We have a lot of forwards and midfielders. So going that road, I would not want us to go promotion straight away, because I think financially it would ruin the club. I think that, again, you're just opening yourself up to mismanagement when we need a season that's boring, essentially. We need a solid mid-table finish that, I don't mind if we, win 15, lose 15 and draw the rest. I'm not bothered. I just want us to want us to settle and be able to build a foundation where we can then go on and achieve, success in the championship. The owner said within 5 years, at the end of the 5 years, he wants to be pushing for promotion in the championship playoffs. It's not unrealistic, but it's going to be hard to get there, and you're only going to get there through good management. So if we go down, which I'm hoping we don't, but if we do go down, then we just have to settle for a bit. We overachieved last time. We just need to understand where we are and not punch above our weight.
Yeah, no, I completely understand you on that one, and I enjoy having you on, and most of these, the opposition podcasters, if I don't already follow their team to a certain degree, interviewing the likes of you and the other podcasters that I've interviewed, I do. Wigan has like a small part of my like like I always look for the score line in there because it's such an interesting club with everything
Mm-hmm.
going on right now at it. It's just like you can't, yeah, if they do make the great escape, I'm sure they'll probably burn the city of Wigan to the ground because everybody will be out there partying, and they'll probably have an open top bus parade saying we we survived. But I will leave. I'll ask you one more question. I try to leave this on a positive note and a happy note. Match day before the match. What's your pre-match go-to beverage?
See, I don't really drink, but when I was at the stadium the day, I thought, yeah, you know what, I will do. But I just have like a beer, just a nice beer.
Okay.
I don't like getting too many, but no, I just had one in the stands the other day, and it was nice just takes the edge off a little bit, especially when you need nerves settling.
Yeah.
And I love it. The whole match day experience, I love it. And obviously, as you know, I've been traveling around, and I was in America, not too far from you, for a couple of months, and so I'm back in the UK, and I actually went to the ground for the first time this season, and I mean, it was great just to see everybody out there. They're trying to boost more of a match day experience at Wigan at the moment. Trying to get more fans involved. There was kids everywhere, which was really good, and they're all waving the flags. And you had people on the pitch at halftime doing their crossbars. I just love the whole match day experience and the match day event. So
Yeah.
I think more clubs need that. I don't want to turn up to a stadium, watch 90 minutes, and go home. You want to enjoy it the whole time. So yeah, at Wigan actually, under the stadium, there's a new bar called Whelan's, and I went in there. They've all redone it out, and all sports screens everywhere, all new beers on. So that was really good. So if there's ever an away day again at Wigan, try and get yourself to Whelan's.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, the DW is a cool stadium. I mean, I've often talked about just going a month long tour of just random football and grounds, because that's what kind of a diehard football fan I am. Even being American, and like, oh, you don't have the same. You don't. People say you don't have the same. You don't know the feeling of going to it every day. Yeah, I don't get to go to it every weekend.
I didn't
That's
know
the
it.
cool thing.
Noah just was in the UK, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was just over there.
Yeah, I think I saw something. He was in it.
He witnessed the Blackburn game, the FA Cup game. He went to Sunderland away, and then he started his trip off in snowy cold, watching probably the worst performance of the season in a loss against Luton. And he's like, "Man, I hope this isn't how it goes." And I'm glad to see he went there and got to see probably the best game of the season in the Blackburn FA Cup win. And yeah, he was over there. So both halves of the red half of Sheffield have now been to the UK to see the Mighty Blades. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of the red half of Sheffield. Charlie, if the people are brand new to listening, where can they find you on social media? Where can they follow Central Wigan Podcast?
I'm mainly on Twitter, so obviously you can see the handle here somewhere, just at Central Wigan. And then through there you can find the Substack, which I kind of do match day articles, which are linked in with the podcast, and you can listen to them there. But I'm on Spotify as well, obviously just Central Wigan Podcast. I think it's on Apple Podcast now as well. Whoever my host provider is, just they put it out somewhere, but I just know Spotify and Apple one are the main ones. But yeah, I'm all on there. I try and do, the previews, match reviews, and we're trying to get into like more loan reports and academy stuff, because the academy is going to be a huge part of our future now. So we're trying to cover all bases on there. But I'm also on the Progress of Unity podcast as well, which is another Wigan Athletic podcast, but it's more of a panel host. So that's a fun one to listen to.
Okay, good deal. And I will. I've listened to a couple episodes, and I might be a regular listener. My podcast feed just keeps growing. The amount of opposition podcasts that I just dabble in, because it's cool to see and listen to the other podcasters. Yeah, I just like everybody else's other take and opposed from my red and white glasses that I wear all the time.
I have the notifications on for Spotify, and like every day it's just new podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I physically cannot listen to all of these.
Yeah, I'm running through the week and I'm looking and I'm like, yes, my podcast list is full. It's like, man, I don't know how I'm going to squeeze, because then I want to listen to the, if I'm at work, I put on Talk Sport, and they have all the EFL games, or at least one going on from the midweek fixtures, or even around the grounds. If United play before the 3 p.m. kickoffs, I get to listen to Around the Grounds, and I just absolutely love that. So I certainly am searching for more hours in the day to listen to different podcasts, and it's just like there's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, definitely not.
But and for you guys that this is your first time, or you haven't done so, you can follow our podcast, Red Half of Sheffield, on Twitter and Facebook, and our YouTube channel. Just look up the Red Half of Sheffield in the search bar, and you can follow me, Chad Jarvis, at cjarvis_13 on Twitter and Instagram. And until this Easter Friday, Good Friday, when we take on Wigan, up the Blades.
Up their ticks.